Hey everyone, welcome to another TouchDesigner video. In this one I'm going to tell you about a component that I built called ColorExtract. It's a bit different from my other videos because I'm not walking you through a network, instead I'm focusing on the component itself. I'll tell you what it does, how to install it and how to use it. Starting with what it does, as the name says, it extracts colors from images. Well, actually it could be any input top, but it makes sense to think in terms of images. And I think it's useful if you want to create visuals that have an image and other elements with the same colors around it. As far as I know, it's not something you can do using only TouchDesigner operators, so this has a small Python library behind it. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Before that, I think it would be good to acknowledge that there is already another similar component created by Matthew Reagan, which has been out for a while. It's a bit fiddly to set up, but that's okay. The problem I had with it is that sometimes it would miss some colors that I thought should be in there. One good example is the oil drums JPEG. If I ask for the top 6 colors, it doesn't give me any red, and I think red should be in the output. So instead of just using this component, I went down the rabbit hole of studying different color extraction methods, and eventually I came out of it with my own Python library, which is the base behind this component I wrote. It's called ColorExtract. It's free. If you have Python on your machine, you can just install it with pip and just run it as a command line. You run color-extract and the path to an image file. By default, it gives you a table with the top 6 colors, and it also generates a plot so you can see the palette next to the image. Here we see that the extraction method that was used is called lab enhanced, and this is the default one. You can also pick a different method by using the option -m, and the most convenient way to choose is to pass all, which outputs a plot of all the methods, and you can pick the best one for your use case. One thing I learned while working on this is that there's no single method which works for every image, so it's up to you to pick the one you want to use. All of these methods are based on a clustering algorithm called k-means, which is the classic way of extracting colors from an image. The difference between them is just how they interpret these clusters. The other methods are more opinionated. They focus on different characteristics in those clusters, which give you different output palettes. One good example is this image. The flower brings a touch of magenta to the picture, but it's still quite small. It occupies a small area in the image. So technically it's not a very important cluster. Maybe you wouldn't see it in the top 5 or 6 colors. But I think if you asked any human with normal vision to pick the top 5 or 6 colors in this image, probably magenta would be there. And this is what the library brings to the table. It provides alternative methods for extracting colors from images. Now, this is it for the command line. Let's go back to TouchDesigner. The component is essentially a wrapper around the library. I made a talks for it. It's available for free on my Patreon page, so if you're not a member yet, consider joining. You can download it from there and then just drag it into your TOE file. Once you do, you're going to get an error. And that's because TouchDesigner doesn't know anything about the dependencies that ColorExtract needs. The setup is something that we have to do first, but here I'm going to invert the order of things and do the setup later. So I'll cut magically to another file that already has the component set up, just to show you how it works, and we'll get back to the setup later. It takes a top as an input, and it outputs another top. Like I mentioned before, the input can be any top, but it makes sense to use an image, so I'll pick a movie violin top. As soon as you connect it, we see in the preview the output of all 5 methods. And just for convenience, when the input is a movie violin and we change the image, the process runs again automatically. The output can be a null, and I like to change the viewer smoothness to nearest pixel so we see distinct blocks of color. The resolution in this case is 6 by 1, where 6 is the number of colors defined on the component. The method is lab enhanced, which is the default, and it's the 4th one down in the preview. Let me just load another image here so you can see more examples as we go along. The sorting method is set to x-axis, which sorts the palette from left to right. We can also do y-axis, which is top to bottom, or frequency, which is the size of the cluster or how often the colors appear in the image. One thing you might notice is that when I click on extract, there's a short pause in the timeline. That's because this is a CPU heavy process. On my Windows PC here, it takes about 0.1 to 0.2 seconds to extract the colors. So this means that it makes more sense to use this when you know your assets ahead of time. There's also a toggle to run this on a separate thread. So when I click on extract, you notice that the timeline keeps running. The downside of this is that it takes much longer to get the result. I confess I don't know why this is the case or if it could run faster on a separate thread. But I included this toggle here just to give you an option. You can either run this synchronously or asynchronously. Now let me show you a few more examples. So now that you've seen what the component does, let's go back to that setup step. What we need to do is to tell TouchDesigner where to look for Python dependencies. And what we don't want to do is to mess with anything that might already be installed in the system. We don't want any version clashes or anything like that. We need our own corner or a virtual environment. When you download the TOX, there's a README file next to it, which shows 3 different ways of doing it. In the video, I'm going to walk you through the first one, which is using UV. UV is a package and project manager. You can just go to the website and follow the installation steps for your system. Once you're done installing it, the first thing you want to do is to save your TOW file in a dedicated folder. And that's because we're going to need to add some more stuff next to the TOW file. Then open a terminal, browse to that folder, and run uv init-python 3.11. The Python version here is very important because that's the version that TouchDesigner uses, so make sure to get Python 3.11. Once that's done, run uv add color-extract. This will create a virtual environment in a folder called .venv. If you can't see it, go to View, then Show, then Hidden Items. On macOS, press Ctrl-Shift-. The folder we're interested in is lib site packages. So go back to the component on the Setup tab and under Dependencies path, browse to that folder. The first time the dependencies are loaded, it takes a bit longer, so just wait a couple seconds and the error should be gone. In case it isn't, you can go to the Extensions tab and click on Re-init. And this is it. I hope it wasn't too complicated. Setup's finished, and you're now ready to use ColorExtract. Hope you find it useful. I have an idea for a visual effect using it, and I'm planning to make a video about it in the future. But this is it for this one. Thanks for watching. Consider supporting my work on Patreon, the link's in the description, and see you in the next one.